A 5, 6. Dune, 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 Dunenator, Dern, Dernan, Dern Flurf, Dern, Dun, Dune, Dune.
At the train station, you got about 10 minutes before the train comes, then 90 minutes to Boston, another half hour to Brian and Amanda's house, and then we're gonna hang out and get ready to go see this movie. I'm currently without a car, so I had to take an Uber here, but this is not a very highly populated area. This is a more populated area over the summer because it's like a beach community, but right now it's just kind of empty. So I almost didn't get one. It took me several tries to get a ride, and I was like almost ready to hop on a bike and come up here that way and throw it in the bike lock, but luckily I didn't have to do that.
The thing is that I read Dune when I was like maybe 13 or 14 years old. It's a book, frankly, that I came in contact with the book by coincidence. I remember the first time I saw the cover in the library. At the time I was like, I was a teenager that deeply loved reading books. I was reading a lot, and I was always looking for new material. And at the time I was very good in science, and I was starting to be more and more curious and more amazed by science fiction. Dune is a very, very rich book. So when having had that kind of sense,
the destination is on your right.
All right, walked all the way here, got off the train, walked for about 20 minutes, and now I'm standing outside waiting to be left in. Boom, boom. But I thought I was overcomplicating it in my head. Yeah. Actually, okay, wait, that's a really good question. So, what exactly is Dune anyway? I thought I would take a second, interrupt the story to give a little background on the whole situation. Dune is considered one of the classic science fiction stories. It came out in 1965 and it was originally published serialized, so basically little chunk by little chunk in a science fiction magazine, and then later compiled and released as one big book. It was written by a guy named Frank Herbert, who was an American author. He was inspired after visiting the sand dunes in Oregon to write a novel about the desert and nature and man's attempt to control nature. And then he also began to think about these ideas, particularly the myth of the superhero, the idea of a savior, the idea of the Messiah, this religious idea of this great individual who's going to, save us and lead us into a better world, and about how there's a lot of reasons to be skeptical of things like that. And to paraphrase his words, basically anyone who's being called a savior should come with a big warning sign that says, trust at your own risk, and goes on to explore and deconstruct a lot of these ideas and about why people get put in held up in this position and why people follow them and the effects of that. This movie is in a long line of Dune adaptations or Dune adaptation attempts. I got into Dune as part of the preparation for this movie. It was originally supposed to come out fall of last year, but because of COVID, it ended up getting bumped to this year. So my initial plan was watch the first movie, read the book, and then watch the second half of the movie, watch part 2 when it came out a couple years later. But since the movie ended up getting bumped, I ended up reading the book in advance and then seeing the movie kind of the old-fashioned way, and I became a really big fan. And my cousin Brian and his girlfriend Amanda are also big sci-fi people. I'm a big sci-fi person. We were all excited for the movie and wanted to read the book. We all read the book, and coincidentally, they recently moved to a new place in a new neighborhood of Boston. So this movie coming out and all of us being excited for it was an excuse to go visit them and see the area and hang out, and then all go see the movie together.
I'm sort of at a fever pitch of my Dune enthusiasm right now. And I hadn't read it since I was 19 years old, and I can't believe how much of it has stuck with me since then. I first read it when I was not that much older than Paul Atreides, and I got one of my first professional jobs in Italy. And I didn't speak the language, I didn't know the people. I had my first own little apartment looking over the Via Giustolo, and I would sit on the window seat and read Dune all night.
Oh yeah, we're walking, and we saw the movie. We saw the movie, and it was great. And then we went out to a couple bars, and now we're trying to get back. And it's 1 a.m. And we're just having a really good time. We're having a really, really great time. I know, dude. Let's hang out more.
So beautiful.
Hey, wait, can you actually take a couple steps back so that you're lit by the window?
Look at that lighting.
Oh yeah.
Look at those layers.
Oh man. Look at that.
The beauty. The
Yeah.
artistry.
The artistry. Alright, I'm gonna drink this now.
It's all yours. Do you have a good grip?
I love how it has like these little dots from the
Yeah.
thing. I think that's really funny.
Okay, you're sick. We're having a moment.
Hold on, Brian.
How is it?
Unbelievable. Dune. Little synopsis for people who might be unaware. It's sci-fi, it's the future, like 10,000 years into the future, and it centers around this planet called Arrakis, also known as Dune, hence the title. And this planet has this thing called the spice, which is a natural resource that is very crucial to the economy of this big galactic empire. And this planet is the only place in the entire galaxy that makes it, which makes it super, super valuable to the big powerful players and the companies. And so this government exists in like a feudal system where there are like different houses, kind of like if you've seen Game of Thrones or read A Song of Ice and Fire. It's a similar thing where there are the different families and the different houses. So there's this one family called the Harkonnens. They were in charge of Arrakis for a very long time, but then one day before the start of the movie, the Emperor goes, all right, you guys are out, go away, and we're gonna bring in this other family, the main characters. That's the Atreides, that's Oscar Isaac and Timothy Chalamet, and that family is like now going to Arrakis to be the new people in charge. And Timothy Chalamet, who plays the son of the Duke, there's whisperings around that he might be this like special person, maybe like this chosen one type figure. And they arrive on Arrakis, but there are a bunch of different players who are all scheming and vying for power.
Like, I don't know if we want to walk through Union Square with Michael and like take kind of a long walk.
And of course, I was Paul Atreides. I was the Muad'Dib. I was Usul. I was the Kwisatz Haderach. And I believed that fear was the mind killer. And I would let the fear pass through me. And when the fear passed through, I would watch its path. And when the fear was gone, only I would remain. And that wasn't just a youthful enthusiasm. There is philosophy. There is emotional tools that he describes in this book that have literally stayed with me my entire life. But I didn't even realize it till just now I went back and read how influential it was.
Excellent. She was supposed to like take over this work for me.
Any pastries too?
I was like kind of.
Look at that. Look at it. This would be pretty fun for at least part of the Halloween party. Oh yeah. Review time, a little review. I'm not like a critic or a reviewer or anything, but I figure since everybody's talking about it and we're watching it and I went all the way to see it, may as well share some thoughts. So is it any good? Well, as I said, walking down the street at 1 a.m. after going to a couple bars, yeah, it's good. It's really good. It's a fully realized adaptation of this book. And like when I say fully realized, I mean that they spared no expense on the world building. All of the design departments, the production design, the sound design, the costumes, the music, it all feels incredibly well realized. And this place feels like a real place. The movie feels incredibly tactile. There is such an incredible scope to the whole thing that you really want to see it in that scale, and you want to see it in IMAX, which is why I put in IMAX in the title, and why everybody who's talking about this movie is like IMAX, 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 theater, 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 theater. The director, Denis Villeneuve, actually said seeing this movie on HBO is like driving a speedboat in a bathtub, which is a little dramatic, but you know, directors are dramatic people. That being said, it's still a good movie, so if you do go watch it on HBO, you're still gonna get to watch a movie that's really good. But this movie definitely feels like a movie that was designed for IMAX, for the movie theater experience. Like you're in the theater and the sound design is happening and you're literally like shaking in your seats from the rumbling and the way that it's all kind of put together. It feels like it was designed for that experience. So if you have the opportunity to see it in that format, it's definitely worth spending the extra few bucks. As for the performances, you have an all-star cast of actors all operating at the top of their game. Some people definitely have bigger parts than others, and a few of the parts are definitely scaled back from what they are in the book for the sake of streamlining the overall story. And the big small part that everybody's talking about being a small part is Zendaya, because she was billed as like the lead actress, and her and Timothée Chalamet did a bunch of their press together, so they kind of led it to believe that they were like the leads of the movie, when in reality, her character in the book doesn't show up until halfway through. She's not in it a lot until the very end, so it goes. No spoilers, she is introduced into the plot, and then shortly after it all wraps up and sets up for the next one. And then in part two, assuming that it's faithful to the novel in the way that the first one is, she will be the main character at that level that she was kind of billed as for the first movie, and she'll be in it the whole time. Villeneuve actually said that she, in many ways, is the main character in part two, because she kind of acts as like the audience POV character who's like watching Paul ascend and kind of get removed get less grounded and get less removed from the situation, and she kind of acts as our eyes and ears. So she's gonna have a ton to do in the next one. So speaking to the two-part thing for a little bit, it definitely feels like a part one. Some people who were unaware of that going in felt like, oh, just as it starts to get good, it ends, which is kind of what happens when you base it on like the beginning of a book. It's very well done, but that is something that I feel like you should know going in if you haven't seen it. It's much like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, where they split the book into two parts. The first one is good, but it's the build-up, it's the setup for the big finale in the second half. Or like when you watch or read Fellowship of the Ring, really, really good, but it definitely feels like the beginning of the story. And that's 100% the type of thing that you have going on here. So it definitely builds up to that exciting second half. But the movie's really good, big thumbs up for me. I'm not like a rating person, but it was great. Go see it, read the book. Remember at the start of the video when I said that I had all that trouble getting an Uber? Well, it's 11 o'clock at night. I just got off the train, and guess who wasn't able to get a ride back? So I am walking. Yay. So it's kind of funny. I was going back and forth when I was planning this trip about whether or not I was going to come back from Boston tonight or tomorrow morning. And my parents, who were supposed to be around to grab me, thought that I had decided on tomorrow morning when I actually ended up deciding on tonight. And I was under the impression that they were going to be in the area doing certain stuff and staying nearby. But it turns out they're in another state. So I had to call a Lyft or an Uber, and I couldn't schedule it in advance because they don't do that here, because there's not enough demand to like warrant that feature in this area. Whatever. So I just kind of had to hope that there would be one car around, and there wasn't. So now I'm walking. You see, and the funny thing about this is that I was actually kind of not worried, but I was actually kind of disappointed that the like story of me like going to Boston, seeing Brian and Amanda, like didn't match the story of Dune at all thematically. Like they were two disconnected things other than the fact that I was just like seeing the movie. But this actually kind of happens in the movie. So in a weird way, I got what I was looking for. Like, there's actually, sand around and stuff, which is similar. But yeah, in the movie, there's this whole section where they're just kind of wandering all through the night, which is kind of like this. So the next time you go see it, or if you haven't seen it, and you go see it for the first time, or when you read the book, and you get to this part of the story, you can think of me and you can think of this. I did end up making it back by like 1:45 a.m., which like was a long walk, but I made it. It was okay. It was all good, but everything ended up being fine. My legs were hurting the next day for sure though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment below. Have you seen Dune? Have you read the book? Do you like it? Do you plan on doing either theater, Imax, HBO? What do you think? What are you seeing? What do you like? But yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Peace.
You are so beautiful, my Baron.